In order to show content on a website, it needs to follow a certain structure. So let's create a structure for content creators to follow and for us, developers, display on the website. Content model is the overall architecture of the content. You, developer, will define this architecture, and content model consists of content types. Content type is a structure or container for a piece of content, and content type is made up of fields. Fields, also known as attributes, represent different characteristics for a piece of content. As a developer, you will decide which fields to include and what type those fields are. An entry is a piece of content that is based on a content type. Think of an entry as an instance of content type. So you may have hundreds or even thousands entries that are based on the same content type. A reference is a link between two content types. You as a developer will be creating those links, and two content types are referenced to a specific field called reference field. An asset is any media file that has been uploaded to Contentful. They can include images, video, audio files, PDF, and others. Content types can include fields for media, and this will allow authors to link the uploaded files to the content. Let's create our first content model. For simplicity, we're going to take the landing page for A to Z Massage website without header and the footer. The green outline represents page content type. Page content type includes two sections, and we'll call those sections Welcome section and Services section. Welcome section is outlined in blue, and it includes fields like title, introduction, URL for YouTube video, and then also it includes a reference field that references call to action content type. Services section is outlined in red, and it includes references to service cards, call to action, and image. And as you can see, we actually have an image wrapper content type. This type, it wraps around our media, because when you upload images to Contentful media type doesn't have fields for example, alt text, right? So you may want to create your own type that will wrap around media type, where you can add your alt text or description or other information that you need. Service content type is fairly simple. It includes reference to an image, again, image wrapper content type, and a title. And again, there is another call to action content type. So as we said, entry is an instance of a content type. So in our case, call to action has two entries, where we're going to use one in a welcome section and the second one in services section. Now that we have a content model, let's jump into Contentful web app and build our content model.
I am in Contentful web app, and I am in A to Z Massage organization and in a default space. And as you can see, there is nothing here, no content or any content types. Let's start creating content types. And we're going to be creating content types from the bottom up. So we will be creating the content types that don't have any references first. In our case, those content types are image wrapper and call to action. Although media in Contentful is its own content type, it is better to create media wrapper content type that wraps around media, or in our case, we're going to be creating image wrapper because we know we're just going to use images. So those wrapper content types will provide some additional information, right? So maybe description, or in our case, with the image wrapper, we're going to have alternative text, right? So let's go ahead and name our content type, and the name will be image wrapper. All right, so we can hit create. Now we need to add fields. Let's click on add field. And in our case, the first field will be the type of text. And there are different types here, right? You have rich text, you can have a number, date, time, location, media, Boolean, JSON object, and reference. But like I said, in our case, it's going to be a simple text field. And the name of the field will be internal name. If you have a lot of content, it is a good idea to have a internal name field on each content type. Not all content types may have title, so it is easier for content creators to search through internal name field because all content types will have internal name and they can search through all the content types. In our case, we're not going to have a lot of content, but we're still going to have internal name field on all our content types. Now you have a warning that the settings you're going to be doing here you will not be able to change them. So be careful, think through first. That's why you create diagram of your content model first, as we did. The type of the field will be short text, and short text gives us 256 characters. However, you can have 50 characters max if you choose the long text. And then another option is list. All right, but we're not going to select that. Let's click Add and Configure. On this page, you have settings, validation. You can set a default value, and you have appearance right here. So, and then also you may enter help text for content creators so they can know what they need to enter. Let's start with the settings. So the field option, we're going to check that the field represents the entry title. So this field will be displayed in a content list for the content creators. We're not going to enable localization for this field. In validation, we're going to put that it's a required field. Can be also unique field. You can also limit character count, match pattern, prohibit specific pattern, or accept only specific value. Quite a lot of validation here. We're not going to put any default value, and we will leave the appearance as is. You can also choose appearance as URL, dropdown, radio, or slug. So let's go ahead and click confirm. Let's add another field, and another field will be also text, and we call it alt text. And right here, we also will use a short one, right? Although you can choose the long one. If there's going to be alt text, it will be more like a description, but let's keep it as a short text. In the settings, we're not going to display this to content creators, so that's fine. But in validation, we're going to put that it's a required field. We'll scroll down and leave everything else as is. Let's click confirm. And finally, let's add the third field, and the third field will be media. So, and right here, we can call it image. And right here, you have an option whether to choose one file or many files, and we'll just keep one file. Let's click add and configure. Basically, leave everything as is. It's going to appear as an asset card, and show create new asset and link existing assets. We're going to just keep the same. So this image field is essentially a reference field. Let's go ahead and save this model. Next step we're going to create is call to action. Let's click on the create content type on top, and the name will be call to action. Again, we will leave description open, and let's click on add field. The same thing, we're going to have internal name. So the type, we're going to keep it as a short text. And then we're going to click right here. We're going to put it as required field and basically leave everything else the same. So let's go ahead and click confirm. Let's add another field. We'll also have it as a text, and we call it call to action text. All right, and here we also keep it as a short text because we want to have call to action pretty short. All right, right here, this field represents the entry title. We're going to check that so content creators see this field in a list of entries, and we will put it as a required field as well. And everything else stays the same. Or if you want, we can say enter call to action text. That's we're going to put a description here. All right, this content type is done. Let's click save. Let's create another content type, and this type will be services card. Let's click create, and we're going to add a field. Once again, this field will be internal name. The good thing about internal name is that content creators can search content by internal name, but the bad thing is like you have to enter it every time when you create a content type. So the type of this will be again short text. I'm going to click add and configure, and again click on a required field. Pretty much everything else stays the same. Let's add another content type. Again, will be text. We call it a title. I will leave it as a short text as well. And here we're gonna click this field represents entry title, and this is also a required field, and we're gonna put it as a unique field as well. Let's click confirm. All right, now another field we're gonna put it will be called image, and this field will be a reference field, and this field will be referencing our image wrapper. Let's choose one reference, right? Because one services card can reference only one image. And let's go ahead and put it as a required field. There will be entry card. And then we also want to accept only specific entry type. So let's stick in here, and now we can select image wrapper because we already created it, right? So let's go ahead and click confirm. Next, let's go ahead and create services section content type. But here, Contentful is smart enough to tell us that we forgot to save our content type. So let's click save changes. Next, let's create a new content type. And this content type will be services section. I'm going to click create. I'm going to add a field. Again, the first field will be internal name. It's going to be short text, and we'll put it as a required field. And let's go ahead and click confirm. The next field will be title. Again, we're going to leave it as a short text. We click add and configure. We're going to say that this field represents the entry title, and this will be required field and the unique field within this content type. Next, let's add another field. And this field will be a reference field, and we'll call it image. And this will be an image for the section. We're going to have a one reference. Our services section will have one image. Click add and configure. And the same thing, right? We're going to say, well, that's a required field, and accept only specific entry type. And we're going to select the image wrapper right here, and we're going to click and select entry card. So let's go ahead and click confirm. Let's go ahead and add another field. This field also will be the reference, and we're going to call it cards. So the services section will include services cards. And now we're going to have actually a many reference. So we're going to have not just one card, but many cards. So let's click add and configure. We're going to click that it's a required field. You can accept only specified number of entries. I'll probably click that minimum will be maybe 2 and maximum will be 4. And you can also enter an error message if this validation fails. And let's click accept only specific entry type. And in our case, we're going to choose services card. In the appearance, we just leave entry links list because there will be several of them. And everything else will leave the same. And click confirm. Finally, we will add another field. This will be a reference field as well, and we call it call to action. We only gonna have one reference type on this field, so let's click add and configure. Again, we may choose it's going to be required field or not. We'll just leave it no. Maybe, we're not going to have, or our content creators decided not to put their call to action in the card, so we'll leave it as is. We're going to accept only specified entry type, and our entry type will be the call to action. We'll probably have it as entry link in the appearance, and let's go ahead, click confirm. So our services section content type is done. Let's click save. So the next content type we will be creating is a welcome section. So let's click on a create content type. We're going to put a welcome section, and we're going to click create, and we're going to add fields. So, and the first field, again, it's going to be internal name, will be short text, and this field will be required. Right, so we're going to use represents the entry title for the title field. So let's click confirm. Now let's add a title field, will be the text, and it's going to be again short text, and click add and configure. This field will represent the entry title, and it will be a required field, and it will be a unique field. So let's go ahead and scroll. I think everything else will keep the same. We'll click configure. So the next field will be introduction, and this will be a rich text field. So we're going to put name introduction, and then we're going to click add and configure. And now we have a little bit of different configuration. We're not going to enable localization on this field, but we can choose what formatting styles we want, right? We can disable all, and then maybe enable H1, H2, maybe bold, let's say, right? Maybe italic or something, right? Underscored, here we go. We can choose just options that we want our content authors to use, because when we're going to be displaying this content on the website, we're going to have a special rich text parser, so we may not include all the possibilities here, right? Just the certain ones. Can choose allow hyperlinks, right? And allow to embed entries and assets, but we'll leave it as is. We're going to set it as a required field. You can also limit character count, and link to entry. You can also link it, but we'll just leave it as is. Link to asset, that's another option. You can have an embedded block entry, embedded inline entry, right? You can select that, but we'll just leave it as is. You can have embedded asset to limit the number of entries, and then appearance will just have the default as a rich text. Let's click confirm. The next field we're going to create is a video embed URL. So we're going to name it video embed URL, and the type of it will be a long text because video embed URL may be quite long. So let's click add and configure. We're going to have it as the required field, and we're going to leave everything else as a default. All right, let's click confirm. Finally, this section will also have a call to action, and it will be a reference field. And call it call to action. And it's going to be a one reference, and it will reference our call to action content type. We can just select it right here. And again, we're going to leave this field as optional. It's not going to be a required field, and we're going to keep it as an entry or maybe entry card, whichever you like. Let's keep it as an entry link. And let's click confirm. And we're done with the welcome section. Let's click save. Finally, let's go ahead and create page content type. All right, let's click create content type, and we call this one page. Let's click create. And let's go ahead and add a field. Again, the first one will be, you guessed it, internal name. All right, will be short text, exact. Click add and configure. This will be a required field, and everything else stays as is. The next field will be title. Also will be text. We'll call it title. This will be a short text. Let's create add and configure. Now this field will represent the entry title. We'll get a required field, and this will be a unique field. Let's go ahead, scroll down, and leave everything as is. Let's add another field. So this field also will be text, and the name for this field will be slug. And this will be a short text. There will be a slug for our page. And this will be a required field. And we're going to scroll down. And actually, we're going to select the appearance as a slug. And when we select that, right, it's going to have a help text. But it also will have this field generate slug from. And we're going to be selecting title. So now our slug will be automatically generated. So it's going to be a hyphenated lowercase version of our title called kebab case. Let's click confirm. And then finally, we're going to add another field. This will be a reference field and it will be called sections. And it will have a many reference because our page can have many sections. In essence, our page content type is an assembly. Let's click add and configure. And this will be also required field, right? We're going to have at least one section in the page, minimum 1, and maximum we can put maybe like 6, for example, doesn't matter. Right here, we're going to click accept only specified entry type, and we're interested in 2 entry types. The first will be services section, and the second will be a welcome section. So only these 2 content types can be part of the page. So it's going to be easier for us in the code to parse it and create the correct components in React. All right, we can also put a custom error message as we wish. Appearance we're going to leave as is, and let's click confirm. And we are done with our page content type, and let's click save. And as a matter of fact, we're done with our content model. And now our content have a structure, hence is a structured content.
Our content model is ready. Now, all that is left to do is to enter content, but that's an easy part. And I will leave it up to you. In the next video, we will compare the nodes and look at a couple of Contentful tools that will help us as Contentful developers.